Hi, everybody. My name is Nora Harry. I'm the Director of Operations for the Vaz+Harwood team. I'm also joined by Andy Harwood of the Vaz+Harwood team. Um,
Hello.
he's one of our fearless leaders and geeks out with me about business planning. So we're here to geek out with you about business planning and hopefully give you a roadmap to success for yourself for whatever year you are going into, or if you're starting and new to real estate in the middle of the year, this is how you can kind of make a plan for yourself and numbers to hit the goals that you want.
Yeah, when
Um,
I got started in real estate, Sherilyn and I got started in real estate. We certainly didn't have a plan. We didn't know how to make one, and we didn't understand how any of this worked. And then I've been amazed over the years to see how few realtors, even who have been in the business for some time, really have a plan. It's like you're trying to build $1 million building with no blueprint. So this can be really career changing to understand the mechanics of all the numbers in real estate and what you actually need to do to realistically, practically to hit the goal that you want. Because a goal without a plan is really just a dream.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong
So
with dreams, but it may or may not work out.
we're going to try to help you refine those dreams into goals that you write down that will turn into actionable steps and tasks and numbers to get yourself to that goal.
And
Uh,
I also want to say that this is we're going to show you kind of the high level overview of the business planning system that we use for agents on our team and for our own business. So agents who are on the Vaz+Harwood team get the full benefit of this system, and we coach to it. We go through it with everyone. We're going to give you the crash course.
yes. So this is the mini version. If you're interested in doing the full version, talk to us. We could probably give you the full version if you're interested, or you could join us for a future Vaz+Harwood team business planning clinic when we do the whole thing. We
Yep.
love helping agents thrive in their businesses. It's one of the key tenets of the Vaz+Harwood team. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hopefully, most of you understand the key purpose of a business plan, to give you clarity on your goals, remove the guesswork, and give you actionable tasks to do. So this is just a kind of nice overview about it. So we'll be dropping it in the chat for anybody who needs it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
One of the challenges of being in real estate, and good thing is most of us don't have a boss or somebody we have to answer to. But of course, with that, we can get up every day and not quite know what we need to do. So that's really the other purpose of it, your main purpose, I'd say.
yeah. So seeing as how you're your own boss, it's going to be critical for you to kind of do this business assessment at regular intervals for yourself. So we recommend doing this at least yearly, if not quarterly, honestly, because so much can change in a quarter in real estate. And that's kind of like a good threshold for yourself to measure, am I on track with what I said I was going to do? Do I need to refocus myself, etc.? So take time to do this business assessment for yourself, whether you're doing it now while you're on the Zoom with us or doing it separately watching this recording. We'll make sure that this link is accessible for you if you're watching it on YouTube. But truly think about and be honest with yourself
Be
how much
brutally honest.
your real estate business.
Mhm. Be brutally honest.
Mhm.
And would you hire yourself to buy or sell a house?
Mhm.
Be brutally honest. And
Would you hire yourself to run your real estate business, or would you fire yourself from running your real estate business? Important things to think about. So do some reflection because this is important. Writing it down brings it to reality, right? If there's something that's on your brain, think about it, write it down for yourself because this is going to inform how you approach your business plan for yourself.
writing things down is powerful too. You might have the thoughts bouncing around in your head, but writing it down can help you clarify it. Now you put it in ink.
Mhm. Yes. So if you're an agent that's been in the business for a little bit, you should have some numbers from last year. Now, this is probably one of the biggest things I see agents not tracking well for themselves. So even people that have been in the business for a while, if you're someone that's brand new to the business, you don't have any conversion rates. We just have some generic conversion rates we can give you that other people smarter than us have determined. So we'll bring those up later as we get into real numbers breakdown. But if you're somebody who's been in the business or someone who's getting into the business, these are the things you should be tracking. It's really easy to track closed units. It's pretty easy to track how many contracts you sign and how many appointments you hold. But leads generated, that one's a little bit harder to grasp sometimes. Same with conversations. How many people are you talking to in order to generate a lead? So right now, in a stable market, they say it takes about 20 conversations to get one real estate lead. I have seen top ISA trainers recently talking about how in the slower market with higher interest rates, it can take as much as 30 to 40 conversations to get a lead, which is basically double. So are you having enough conversations to even be getting leads? That's something to be thinking about.
Yeah, and this list here in the middle, this is most realtors know these numbers in lesser degree from the let me say this the right way. From the bottom up of this list, greater degree on the bottom, less as we go up. So everyone knows how many units they sold. They probably know how many contracts they signed or thereabouts. How many appointments? A lot of realtors don't really know or don't track it. How many leads they generated? Very few, and even fewer know how many people they've talked to get the leads.
Yeah, so set yourself
And a lot of
apart and
people,
start tracking.
yeah, and few people really know how many people are in their database too.
However, if you have a database, it will tell you how many contacts you have. So you should double check this, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to go into a few other things that you should know and have in your database too. And you should know your average commission amount, right? What were your total sales? How many houses did you sell? What's your average commission,
If you
right?
talk
We'll give you
to,
some averages too for the
if
purposes
you,
of this exercise.
yeah, business people know their numbers. If you talk to the CEO of any company, they can tell you they can tell you the numbers, probably more than the basic numbers for every metric in their business. You should know
Mhm.
your numbers.
So once you know your numbers, right, you can determine your approximate conversion rates, right? So out of my conversations, how many am I converting to a lead, right? So, right, so we were talking about 20 conversations to a lead, 30 to 40 conversations to a lead, right? So if you're doing the math on that, what is the conversion rate on that? So if you're 20%, that's about a 5% conversion rate for 20 conversations. We're going to use 35. Uh,
If you don't know these numbers too, don't worry about it for now. We have averages that we can use or approximations that we can use, and we will use for this purposes of this exercise today. But also think about it as we go into next year. What if it was this time next year and you knew your conversion rates because you tracked all this?
mhm.
Now you can start 2025 business planning with your numbers instead of going off generic numbers. But you won't have it if you don't do any tracking.
Correct. And the percentages will get higher as you go down, right? Once you get a conversation to a lead, the likelihood that a lead will turn to appointment is higher, right? Than if you're just having a conversation trying to get a lead, right? Once you have an appointment, the likelihood that you will sign them is higher than if you don't have an appointment, right? The likelihood that they'll close once they get under contract is higher, right? So your conversion rates down here might be 5% or 2% in the current market, right? But those will gradually increase in their likelihood as you go up. So you can see right here, we have some typical conversion rates for you to use if you don't know your numbers or you don't have numbers to know. So when in doubt, go back to these numbers to help you out. The other thing that you should know when we're talking about knowing your numbers as a business owner, because that is what you are, as an independent contractor, you're your own business owner, right? You're responsible for your own taxes. You're responsible for your own expenses, for tracking it, and all the fun stuff that comes with that. So, a lot of you might know your broker cap, your broker royalty, if you have one, and your monthly dues, right? But when you think about how much it costs to be a realtor, right? There's association dues, MLS dues, super access, gas and mileage, phone and internet, marketing costs, client care, closing gifts, etc. So do you know what your business costs you to run? And can you use that to formulate how much you should be looking to close to cover business expenses, to cover your own living expenses, to cover taxes, etc.
Yeah, we made this Keller Williams focus too, but different brokerages have different fees. You might have a transaction fee or a desk fee or something like that. Just factor it in for what's applicable to you, of course.
Correct. Yeah. So broker monthly dues could be your desk fee, your E&O, etc.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're getting a clear picture of what all your business expenses actually are, because a lot of times it's higher than you think it is, right? Just in these realtor fees alone, it's $1,500 to be a realtor, let alone whatever brokerage you're at. So that can add up.
Mhm.
So now that we've done a little bit of pre-work, right? We know our expenses. We got an idea about our numbers. And if we don't worry, we'll have numbers to plug in. But now I want you to think about, how much money do you need? There's kind of two ways to think about this. How much money do you need to survive? That's this first number we're going to figure out, to pay your bills, to pay your taxes, and to replace a job, essentially, so that you can do real estate full time, if that's your goal. And then there's another number, is how much money do I need to thrive, right? Take care of all that, plus take an awesome vacation, pay for your parents to, pay down their house, pay for their, retirement, etc. Pay for your retirement, pay off debt. So there's kind of two numbers to think about here. And I think it's very important for you to think about both of those numbers, right? Because you don't only want to think about this number, right? But you also don't only want to think about this number. You're a person with goals and dreams, and you should honor and respect that and plan for that.
And everyone's at a different place. Your goal right now might be just to be able to quit that part-time job or full-time job so you can do real estate full-time. But maybe within a year or two, your goal might be to be able to start buying investment properties or pay off some debts or whatever is applicable to your life.
Correct.
So if you just want to start with what you need to make it in real estate, that's perfectly good too.
Mm-hmm. So how much do you need to replace an income or just to live off of, essentially? And this would be take home, right? Your net. What would you be getting take home? Because we're going to go to pre-tax here at the end. We have you multiplying by 1.4 for taxes. So to figure out, that's a very generous padding number, but it accounts for, saving into some Roth or IRA or emergency savings, etc. So let's say I'm just gonna put $50,000. If you wanted a $50,000 take home, times 1.4 would be $70,000, right? So that's how much you would want pre-tax, essentially, to get to your $50,000 net living expenses, right? And that number will work for some people. That number won't work for some people, right? You might have higher cost of living. You might have lower cost of living. It just depends. That's why everyone's number is going to be different. Then the other factor to include here is your business expenses that you just figured out here. If you're just getting into it, I would figure out what your broker dues and your your MLS, and start with this number, right? Hopefully you'll have some gas mileage, etc. But for starters, right, you at least have a starting number to work with. Add that in. So, and then you'll get a gross total of what your GCI, your gross commission income goal, should be.
Yep, totally.
Anything to add on that, Andy?
No, just get it close enough for now.
It doesn't have to be perfect. You want to just get yourself in the ballpark to get yourself closer to figuring out what activities you need to be doing to produce that amount of income. So again, I recommend you do the survive goal, and then I recommend you do the thrive goal. And then you can either, average these, right, and use that to determine your units, right, and your commission goals, or you could pick one or the other, right? What's important to you?
Or you could take the thrive one and hang that up where you brush your teeth and let that inspire you or push you forward every day.
Yep, absolutely. So now that you have that goal, that number, right? And we kind of replicated that exercise right here, right? But essentially we just created this number for the total GCI needed. Hello and welcome.
So,
We're going to be dropping in the chat here the workbook that we are using, so you have it to access it, and we'll send it out afterwards as well. So right now we are working through figuring out your numbers. And right now we are on figuring out your average commission. So figure out what your average sales price is. So if you've been in the business for a few years, you're going to know what your average sales price is. If you've not been in the business for a while, most likely you'll start with some buyers, you'll start with some first-time home buyers. So your number might be a little bit lower than someone who's been in the business, which is totally fine. So we recommend so average home prices in the Twin Cities right now are about 360. So if you want to use that number to plug it in, you absolutely can. You could also pad that down a little bit if you're somebody who is just trying to be conservative in your estimate and your business planning.
if you're unsure, maybe just go with 300,000, which is a bit lower than the average sale price in the Twin Cities area, and it'll account for if you have some smaller condos or, whatever.
Then you're going to find out what your average gross commission is. Again, if you've been in the business, you know what this number is. You can add in your average commission here. We are putting times in the average sales price by 0.03 to account for some buyer transactions and some listing transactions, right? If you're a buyer, you might be in a range of, 2.5, 2.7, 3.0. If you're doing a listing, you might be a little bit more than that, somewhere in the 3.3, 3.5 range, or different depending on what you put for your commission rate. So here we're just giving you a number that you can create an average and an estimate from.
Yeah, this is just for illustration purposes. Everyone charges something different, and it will be different for different agents.
Correct. If you're on a team or a brokerage that charges a certain commission split, maybe not a cap, but a certain commission split, you can add that in here, right? To get your average net commission, right? So after everything's been calculated, what do you have left? Okay, moving on. So if you've already figured out your total GCI needed, which you would have done with your survive and your thrive goals, you will take that total GCI needed and divide it by your average net commission to get you to a total number of units, right? And maybe you came into this business planning with an idea of a unit goal for yourself, right? A certain number of houses to sell. So maybe if you came in here with your unit goal, it'll be very interesting to see, did the math even out to what your number in your head was? If it was, then you probably have a pretty realistic goal. If it wasn't and you're off base, are you overestimating your commitment? Are you underestimating what you can achieve?
The biggest things that we see is people sometimes underestimate how many houses they really need because they forget about the business expenses.
And taxes.
Or correct.
Yeah. So hopefully you have a unit goal that you figured out. Now we're going to break that down into forward projecting the number of appointments, leads, conversations that you should be having for the next year, right? So hopefully you had your numbers from last year. Now we're going to get our numbers. What do we need to do for this year? Instead of just a hope and a dream, I want to close 12 transactions, right? I want to close 30 transactions, right? What are the numbers it will take to get you there so that you can assess as you go through the year? Am I on track for this quarter? Am I not on track for this quarter? Do I need to adjust my activities so that I can hit my numbers? And yes, I can absolutely redrop the workbook in the chat.
Nora, do you have the versions of these that have the approximate numbers written in?
Yes.
Because this will be a lot easier to visualize with the.
Yes, I will change my share. and go to this one that has some estimated numbers in here for purposes of
Perfect.
this.
That's what I was looking for. So
Yes.
we're just going to assume for the purposes of this exercise, we'll just go with it like a round number. You're selling one house a month on average, 12 units next year.
Mhm. So, and again, these are our recommended conversion rates that we didn't come up with. People smarter than us came up with if you do not know your numbers or your conversion rates. So, and again, these are a little bit generous, overestimating, right? Because your conversion rates might actually be better than this. But if you do not know your conversion rates, these are helpful. So let's break it down, because sometimes math can scare people and it doesn't need to be scary, right? So if you're trying to close 12 transactions in a year, for example, especially if you're newer to the business, most of those are probably going to be buyers. You might get a few sellers in there. So out of the buyers that you are looking to close, 90% of them will close if you get them under contract, meaning to purchase a property, right? Inspection issues come out, people's plans change, etc. But normally, once you get them under contract to purchase the home, they're most likely going to close on that home. So if we need to close 10 and we know that 90% of them will close, how then we have to do 10 divided by 0.9, right? 90% to get to 12. It's probably actually more like 11 point something, but we're not going to get a partial closing, right? So we always round up to make sure that we're planning properly for the next year. Now, of course, you could get a referral, right? And that could cover some of your decimal points, right? But are you going to get 12 decimal points or more? Maybe, maybe not. So always best to round up. So once you get somebody under contract, meaning it's 80% likely. Well, excuse me, we're going back. Once you get someone signed under representation, it's 80% that they will probably close, right? Some people, you might have a better conversion rate than that. Some people, you might have a worse conversion rate than that, right? Maybe you're not so great at the showing part and converting them into getting an offer accepted, right? So you might want to work on that area once you know your conversion rates. But once you have someone signed under representation, 80% of the time they'll close, right? So if we know that of our 12 people that put in an offer, 80% get there, then we need to have 15 people under buyer representation.
Yep.
Continuing down, in order to get 15 people signed under buyer representation, we're going to need to have 25 appointments, right? Not every appointment that you get is going to sign, right? But who knows? You might be a rock star at appointments and you might sit them down and sign the representation agreement right there at the appointment, and you might have 100% conversion rate there.
These
Amazing,
might,
right?
these, yeah, these numbers can be very different for different people's businesses. And I would say there's not really a right or wrong answer other than ideally, um, the higher you can get your conversion rates when you get in front of somebody, can you get them to sign a buyer rep or listing contract? That's always a good thing to be shooting for. But more of your appointments might come from more people you know or your sphere immediate database, or they might be raw internet leads or something where who knows? That can be very different for different people. But this can be something to focus on in your business too. Can I improve my skills, scripts, and presentations so that when I get the opportunity at bat,
Win
I
the
hit the
business.
ball, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Um, and then, okay, so if we need to get 25 appointments, right? How many leads do we need to get? How many people do we need to get putting their hand up and saying, I have a real estate need, or I have a real estate referral for you, right? So some people that's about 50%, right? Some people that's better, right? Some people get that appointment no matter what when they get the lead, right? They have the perfect conversation script to use and they set the appointment every time, right? But generally, some people you'll get leads, you'll never hear back from them for some people, right? You get an open house lead, they say, yeah, I'm going to call you, or you call them, you text them, and you never hear back, even though you're following up multiple times, right? So for this exercise, we're using 50%. And again, this is a recommended number that we didn't come up with. So 50%. So we need 50 leads. Conversation to lead, right? So this comes to that 20 conversations to turn into a lead to 30 to 40 conversations to get a lead in the current market. So that's about 2% if we're talking current market, right? Or someone who's maybe less skilled in asking for the business for going on prospecting. So what does that get us to? 2,500 conversations to close 10 buyers. That's a lot. That seems like a big number, right? And if we're talking with our sellers, 3,200. So if we're taking that and we're dividing that essentially by 352 days in the year, that's like 10 people a day, right? So this big scary number, right? All of a sudden it doesn't get that scary, right? If you're committed to working in real estate full time, right? But we also know that not every one of us is going to talk to 10 people a day, right? We probably want to work in real estate 5 days a week, right? We probably are going to take a few vacations, take some time off. We might get sick, so we might have to do days where there's more, right? Host an event, etc. So for this, that's when we're going to have to get more creative. So I'm going to go back to my abbreviated version here so we can focus on the right.
If you've been in the business for a bit, you could take last year's numbers, last year's closings, and work out a worksheet for this too, and estimate all these. And also, now that we all know the market is tougher than it's been in the past couple of years, so if you do what you did last year, you're probably not going to get the same results. You're probably going to get less than what you got for the same efforts and strategies, conversation wise and lead wise.
Yes. So thinking about that, right? There's some math about database size and health. And, if you talk to a certain number of people in your database, you can expect them to convert based on the number of years people stay in their house and the number of, conversations you're having, right? And the rate of home ownership in the world, right? So there is math that can get you to, if your database is sizable enough and you're conversing with them regularly, you can have these conversations just by talking to your database, right? But we all know that our database is probably not big enough, and we should be adding people to our database and tracking how often we're talking to those people, right? So the next step of this is, how am I going to get to the conversations that I need, right? Do I have enough people in my database to have those conversations, or do I need to get out there, host more open houses, go to more events, make sure my dentist is in there, make sure my dog walker is in there, right? Because those are all people that could have a real estate need, or could have somebody that they know who has a real estate need, right? So think about your database health. Your database can give you a number, right? What number is that? How many do you communicate with regularly? You should be able to track that if you have a good database. When was the last time I communicated with them? How many have a phone number or an email address, a mailing address, or a birthday? Guess what? You should definitely have birthdays and home anniversaries and wedding anniversaries in there. Because what? That's a great time of which to reach out to somebody and connect with them and stay top of mind.
I'm amazed at how few realtors either even have a database or take it seriously, or really work on their database, because it's actually the most important um, component of your business. It's your book of business that makes your real estate career what it is. So if
And
you're not focusing on your database, this is a good time to push the reset button and take that seriously.
And guess what? You're already walking around with two or three databases, right? This is a database. This is a database, right? Are all the people in here in your database? And are you tracking the conversations that you're having with these people regularly? If you're
Yeah,
on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, those are databases. You have a number of people in there, right? Are they all in your database?
the problem with this database is it's not getting marketed to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the missing link.
Yes. So we need to make sure that this database number correlates with these database numbers, right? How many people are in your address book if you got an old school address book, right? How many people are on your Facebook? How many people are on your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your other social media platforms? I know a realtor who gets business from Snapchat. Okay. Snapchat, right? So does she have her Snapchat people in there, right? Some of these might be a little bit more nebulous, like, well, I have their Snapchat, but I don't have their email or their phone number, right? But you can still put them in your database and log that you talk to them on Snapchat, right? And then hopefully eventually you'll build up that relationship enough where you can send them, market data on their neighborhood, right? And you get their email.
Totally.
And then this is one I see people overlook a lot too, are even my out-of-state friends in my database. Well, guess what? Referrals are a thing. Some people build their business entirely on referrals, right? You could be referring people to someone in their area. They could be referring someone who's looking to relocate to Minnesota or
We've
Wisconsin,
pulled
whatever state you're in.
I mean, gotten commission check referral from New York, Chicago, Texas, California, Arizona. I mean, Florida, all kinds of places, just from people who have moved there, and we've helped them find a realtor. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
For just one phone call, check for a couple $1,000 shows up. It's amazing.
And
And
that can make a difference.
many of those markets have higher prices than we do too. If you know people in California or something, the chances are they're going to buy a house that's $500,000 or more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So once you've kind of figured out those numbers for yourself, we're going to turn this kind of into your business plan, because you need to know all those numbers in order to make a smart, right, an actionable business plan that has realistic numbers. And some of those numbers might be big, right? That might feel not realistic, right? So how can we turn those numbers into an actionable plan, with days, with deadlines, etc., built into them? I hope everybody on here is familiar with SMART goals. If you're not, there's a sheet in here about what SMART goals are. So specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound, right? So here's an example of what an okay goal is and what a smarter goal would be, right? Get 3 closings next month. Okay, how are you going to do that, right? That's a little nebulous. Have 10 plus conversations a day to set 2 buyer and 1 listing appointments each week this month, right? Whoo, that number suddenly now has a plan and a step forward, right? Improve my scripting skills. Attend 2 trainings a week, each week this quarter. That's a lot, right? But there's trainings galore, right, in the world. Online trainings in your brokerage, your realtor association, etc. You can find the training to plug into if you look for it.
Yeah,
So,
so these went from nebulous ideas to things that you can actually put on your calendar.
and that's what we want to get to. So this is a thing called a 1-3-5. They use it a lot in Keller Williams, but I'm sure other industries and businesses use it too. Other companies as well. You might have something similar to this and not call it a 1-3-5, right? So whatever you want to call it, however you want to do it, you want to take your big number, right, that we came up with, your unit goal and your volume, your GCI goal, right? And you want to use both of those numbers, right, with an or in between, right? Because your GCI goal and your unit goal, it's not going to be a perfect match all the time, right? You might need to close more homes to get to your GCI goal, right? Because you were closing smaller condos, right? But if you get a few like $600,000 listings in there, right, you might feel behind on your unit goal when actually you're crushing it on your GCI goal. So it's important to give yourself space, right, to feel like you're on track, but also a different number to root for if you're behind in a different aspect.
Yeah, and
So we're gonna go ahead, Andy.
you could put other goals on here too. If you have a goal like for this year to, I don't know, get a foothold in a certain neighborhood, or get all of your contacts from here into your database and get that cleaned up, or whatever business things you want to accomplish for the year, you can put it on here. This sheet should be done once a year and maybe reviewed quarterly.
Yes,
Not
because
maybe, it should be
yeah,
reviewed.
absolutely. Because you should pick 3 lead gen sources, right? We try to do it all. We'll be a master of none, right? So what are my main lead gen activities that I want to focus on, or / are my most productive historically lead gen activities to focus on to achieve my numbers, right?
These are your three strategies. It doesn't have to be three. It could be two. It could be even one. I know agents, all they do is open houses. I know people who all they do is nurture their sphere. Some people, all they do is cold call. If you want to stretch it to four, okay, but don't try to do too many things is just the main point, because you,
Yeah.
like Nora said, you end up um, dividing your efforts. You probably don't get good at any one thing, and you'll have more success if you focus.
Correct. And you only have so much time in the day, which we're going to get to too. So if you try to do four, once you look at trying to put these onto your weekly goals, you'll be like, ugh, I don't have time for all this, right? So 2 to 3 is ideal and recommend, or one, right? So for you, depending on what your things are, right? Andy said open houses, sphere, cold calling, right? That those three things are not going to be most likely on somebody's 135, right? Unless they have a variety of personalities. So pick the ones that are yours that work for you, right? Sphere goes generally with most things, right? Your sphere, your database, right? So that should probably most likely be on everybody's, unless you churn and burn, which why would you do that, right? You're in the business of helping people, right? And establishing relationships and helping support them in their goals for themselves and their family. So don't be a churner and a burner, right? Talk to your sphere, talk to your database, build relationships and get referrals from that or repeat business, right? So once you've figured out or clarified your lead gen activities, I should say, then you're going to figure out what are your tactics. Okay, sphere, events, and farming. I love it. Perfect. So sphere, events, and farming is our example that we'll use here. So then under each tactic, right? Under each source, put your tactics for that. So for example, for farming, right? If you're going to farm your neighborhood, right? I want to flyer my neighborhood or door knock my neighborhood, once a month, once every other month, right? With an item or information of value, right? I want to host a quarterly event in my farm, right? National Night Out, a 4th of July party,
Sure, we do a
a
trash collection.
holiday party. Yeah.
We do a trash collection event. There's lots of ideas out there.
Mhm.
I know a realtor who does a pumpkin giveaway at Halloween. We do a Halloween party. That's a farming related thing. Invite all the neighbors, and
Yep.
we food drive. There's all kinds of things. We go on and on.
Yep.
Where might be a good source to find different ideas? Because those are great.
Mm.
Uh,
And you
Uh,
can think about that. I mean, that's like I
we have a sheet of
jumped
them.
in.
I don't know if it's in this,
it's
but
not in this, but I'll send you the full version too.
That would be awesome. That'd
Yeah.
be great.
also
Thank you.
also Facebook groups like Lab Coat Agents uh, is a great. They're great for that too. But I would say
Yeah.
the danger is you might get too many ideas.
Right.
This is what will help.
It's a shiny object.
Yeah, boil it down into things that you can do consistently and that fit your personality and skill set. I'm all for people stretching and trying new things, especially when you're new. But I had a lot of people coaching me to do things, telling me I had to do things that really weren't the best use of my skill set, and I had to learn that
Yeah.
if I'm gonna be successful at these tactics and activities, they have to be things that we're not doing a sprint. We're running a marathon, so to speak, right? We can't run out of gas by February because we're so sick of doing this that we hate it.
Yep.
Mhm.
So pick things that you can do consistently.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, on that topic too, events, right? Some farming and events thing will correlate a little. So like, are you maximizing your events, right? Are you inviting people to your event, right? So that would probably be like, send out 3 invites in advance of my events, right? A postcard and email, and do a personal phone call or text to invite to my events, right? Get a vendor sponsor for my events, right? To cut down on my expenses, right? Follow up after my event and say thank you to those that came, and say I missed you to those who didn't come, right? And then these are all things that will then go on your calendar, right? And turn into your weekly goals, right? In advance of everything. So these are just figure out what your tactics are that you're going to commit to doing to make these lead gen activities successful for you, right? Because when Andy talks about evaluating this every quarter, right? Are you on track for your goals? If you're not on track for your goals, have you been doing all the tactics that you said you would be doing for lead gen? If you're not doing them, we either need to commit to doing them, right? Or maybe reevaluate our lead gen strategy,
Yeah, by
right?
March 15, take a look at this and see if you've been doing what you said you were told yourself you were going to do. And if not, ask yourself, where was the problem? Was it something I'm not able to do because I don't have the time? Did I just not make it onto my calendar? Was I not committed enough? Do I need to modify my strategy now?
Mhm.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you've completed this activity, then we're going to talk, because this is your plan, right? This is your objective for the year, right? This is your marching orders, right? But we have to turn marching orders into time blocks on the calendar and weekly activities.
Hmm.
So for us, the next step to do is think about your current time commitments, right? How much time do you have available to do this? As our own business owners, so much of the time, like we're like, oh, I can do it later, right? I can wake up at 11 and I can roll into the office at 1, right? Right. That doesn't work for some people, right? But some people do want to do that when they run their own business, right? And then actually you roll into the office at 4. You only have 2 hours until you need to go meet your friend for dinner, right? You actually lose all that time,
They
right?
shouldn't be in business at that point. It's like, no.
Yes. You need to have a serious reevaluation of your priorities. Yes. But right, everyone is different. Everyone has different obligations, commitments, families, etc. Right. Some people have fuller part-time jobs. Some people have taken up new responsibilities with the market slowdown, right? They've maybe taken on a part-time job. Some people are parents, right? Or they're caring for a parent. So you could have other responsibilities that are important and unmovable things on your calendar,
Yeah.
right? So, but also sometimes they don't take as long as we think they do, right? Sundays I go grocery shopping, right? Do I think I have time on Sunday? Sometimes I think I have no time on Sunday. Guess what? Grocery shopping takes 1.5 hours, right? I have 10 more hours in Sunday to do things.
But I also
So,
know I
go
also
ahead.
know agents who insist on taking a day off, and I know some of us don't think that's possible. Maybe it's not entirely possible because maybe you have there's going to be one-off situations, right? We have a highest and best or something like that. But you can try. You can tell yourself that Sunday is my day off or whatever, and then um, put that into your plan. It won't
Yes.
always work out, but at least you had that on your plan.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's smart.
And this
Yeah.
helps with your numbers too, right? Because if you had to do, 300, 3,500 conversations, right? Divided by 352, that's 10 a day, right? But take, 7 days, 1 day a week out of that, right? Then you have to have 12, 15 conversations a day, right? So you got to be realistic with yourself on when you're going to be and when you are able to work. So put, church, right? If you're very active in your church, right? And Sunday till 2 p.m. is out, put that on there, right? You are not going to be working then, but that doesn't mean you still can't talk to people at church, right? About your business, right? But be realistic about what your current commitments are, what's immovable, right? Like if you have kids and you want your kids to come first, right? And you have kid lessons on Thursday nights, you're putting kid lessons on Thursday nights on here, right? And then you're gonna, if someone asks for an appointment on Thursday night, you know what, I'm not available, I have another commitment at that time, but I'm happy to offer you these alternate times.
Right. That's good.
So coming down into that, once you've figured out, what is on your calendar for every day, is how much time do they actually take you to achieve, right? Again, we think that grocery shopping is an all-day activity. Sometimes it's not, right? So be realistic and put it on here. Also, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is a very realistic time period to be awake and functioning, right? So if you're somebody who doesn't wake up until 11, right, then you really have to focus during those hours. So you might just want to creep up your time in the morning a little bit, right?
5 a.m.
Not you. Yep. I'm pretty much the same. So
Yeah.
Nora, can I share my screen for a sec?
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
show you my time blocking plan and how I do it real quick here,
Cool.
um, in case this is helpful.
And
So
we
you,
also have another video on a Vaz+Harwood Academy we did on this, and
we
we
do,
have one coming up actually in a week or two as well. So
yeah.
Very cool.
So I've got, all my calendars over here, and I just turned everything off, like all my appointments and everything. So I made another calendar called Andy Time Blocking, and that I can just turn on and off whenever it's off 99% of the time. I just have it in there in the background so that I can remind myself where my time blocks are. So the way I approach this is I put number one, I put all the things that are non-negotiable, like I've got to drop off the kids and pick them up. I'm going to do that um, e- every day because I've got three kids in schools. And then we have a morning call on our team that's on there. Nine to 11 is time for lead gen, lead follow up, making content, social media posts, that sort of thing, which I consider lead generation too. I think
Yep.
your best time is usually in the morning. Maybe not for everybody, but most of the time you've got to get the business driving lead follow up and lead gen activities done with your best quality time. So if you put that off and say, I'll do it later, life catches up with you, the day catches up with you, and you don't get it done. And that happens to me a lot too, by the way. But at least I had a
Yeah.
plan. And, it can change too. You might have to take an appointment in the morning or something, but it's better to have a plan than chaos.
Agreed. No, I like that.
Yeah, and then there's usually a meeting or something like this that we have scheduled around 11. So that's on there. And then I've got appointment. I had more appointment things on here. I think they dropped off. I've got to take another look at this. But so schedule when you can take appointments. Like, is that in
Yeah.
the afternoon? I'm supposed to have more after the kid pickups here, but they're gone. So, I think like lead gen time in the morning, appointment in the afternoon. That way, when you talk to leads, you can offer them your times.
I
Like
like that.
I'm available, at 12:30 or 4 or 5 on Monday. What,
Hmm.
what what time works for you?
I like that a lot.
You can start controlling your life
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
letting everybody control you all the time.
How did you know?
Well, because I've lived it.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you realize you're like a puppet that everybody else has got an agenda and you're living their agenda.
Right.
And that's where we fail a lot in real estate because if we don't have a time block to do some kind of lead generation activity, then we're not going to have we're going to not follow up on leads, we're not going to get new leads, et cetera, et cetera.
if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So make sure it's on your calendar because a lot of times people feel it can be constraining to schedule that kind of stuff, but it's actually very freeing because you see you have a lot more time than you think you do, or specifically, I have this period of time to get this activity done because the rest of my day is full. So I have to commit to doing it then, and everything else is accounted for on my schedule. So I don't have to worry about the other things. I can just focus on this at that time.
Yep. That's good.
So the last piece of this business plan, right? We did our 1 through 5. We talked about our commitments to ourselves, right? And then now we're going to take that big yearly plan that we're going to review quarterly, and we're going to turn that into a 411 plan, which essentially is a weekly guideline for ourselves, right? So we can put our annual goals, right, from our 1 through 5 up here, right? Our job goals, our business goals. We should have some personal financial goals too, and personal goals, because we're people that are not just workers, right? We have personal interests and passions and responsibilities, and we got to take care of the whole self, not just the business self. So those goals should absolutely be included in your plan. You can break it down your annual goals then into monthly goals. Personally, I like quarterly better, because right, some months you might take a vacation, right, and then you're a little off, right? Also, real estate is about 30 days to 60 days behind just because of the nature of closings. So if you have a monthly goal and you get behind, that might be stressful to you. So it's better to look at it in a context of a quarter, is what I recommend.
And that kind of goes within to that 12-week year.
Correct.
that you can kind of use within that. I like that.
Yes.
So don't get confused between the 135 and the 411. The 135, do it once for the year, check in on it quarterly. The 411 you can use weekly to break down, okay, how many people do I need to talk to? How many appointments should I be trying to set? What else do I need to do this week that's like a big rack item, meaning it's non-negotiable?
Yeah, I
And
like that.
yeah, yeah,
And a lot of times for agents, the big rock non-negotiable items should be lead gen and lead follow-up, right? But
Right.
for you, if you're behind, right, on your events, right, or open houses, right, you might be like, I have not done open houses for 4 weeks. I need
Mhm.
to do 2 or 3 or 4 open houses this weekend and do a blitz, right? Then you can make it an announcement. So, I'm doing an open house rally this weekend. I'm doing 4. Come join me. You can hit me here, 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 or here, right? I'd love to help you find a house, right? So that might be your big rock then for that week, which could also be your lead gen activity, right? Kind of make things work for you. But generally, you got to have one thing that you must get done no matter what. But sometimes that does need to change a little bit, right? You should have a productivity goal too, right? That's a numbers based goal, right? Post 2 open houses, right? Go attend 1 community event, right? Do
Yeah.
1 farming activity,
Yeah.
from your projects, that kind of thing.
Good.
And then always good to have some kind of personal development or professional development goal on there too, right? A CE class, a training at my brokerage, a training at my realtor association, right? Because remember when we talked about our conversion rates, if you're better at one thing and not so good at something else, right? If you have a lower conversion rate in something, that's what you should be going to training about, right? And
That's
working
good.
on professional development with. So is that built into your plan? If
Mm.
not, it should be.
Yep, that's good.
train to the skills that you need to execute your plan.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
your plan includes farming, I would be looking for some agents in the office who do farming really well and see if they're teaching a class, or you could schedule some time with them, or you know, or
Or
if there's
or a Facebook group on farming realtors or realtor farmers, right? I mean, that could be interpreted a few different ways, but I bet you there's a Facebook group about realtors who farm neighborhoods, not farm.
Right.
well, just on lab coat agents, you'll find all kinds of stuff too.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Right.
That's
So
about
once
everything.
you've completed all of that, you should have an actionable plan about turning your goal, right? Your financial goal, your unit goal, right? Into how many conversations do I need to have? How many leads do I need to get? How many appointments should I be having, right? Because those are the metrics that are going to move your business. A closing is not going to move your business, right? You cannot
Right.
produce a closing, but you can if you produce a conversation, a lead, and an appointment, right?
Yeah.
That will get you there. So these are the 3 activities you should be focused on every day when you're committing to working in real estate, which is hopefully 5 days a week at least, right? Depending on yourself and your goals, you could strive for a 4-day work week, right? And then you could want to really crush it out. But you're also could be somebody who works a full-time job and you have the weekends to dedicate to real estate, right? So if you
Ugh,
only have 2
can't
days a week,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, if you only have 2 days a week, right? And you're someone who's trying to make that transition, you got to make those 2 days count, right?
It's kind of, you use whatever time you have. I mean,
Exactly.
that's the thing. It's so if you can condense it and be powerful.
Yes. And
that'd
do you
be-
know what you should be focusing on with the days that you have? Be it 5 days, 2 days, 7 days. Hopefully not 7
Mhm.
days, right? But do you have an action plan? If not, follow this through, right? Revisit it from time to time. Keep it in front of you, right? Keep your 411 goals on a post-it on your mirror on your desktop, right? Right. If you put your big rock goal, your productivity goal, as you accomplish it, right? Throw the post-it away, right? As you accomplish it, cross it off your to-do list, right?
Yeah.
Productive work should be focused around your goals, not around a to-do list.
Yeah. That's good.
If anybody wants more help with this, talk to Nora or myself. We'd be happy to.
Yes. We love working about business planning. We love helping agents be more strategic with their business, and we love supporting agents on the Vaz+Harwood team. So if you're interested in learning more about us, give give us a ring, give us a shout, and we'd love to talk. But also, we love to just offer this to anyone and everyone who wants to get better in their business too. So we will always continue to be an open well of information for you guys.